All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Welcome to the South Texas Regional Family Medicine Grand Rounds. Our educational partner today is the South Central Area Health Education Center. Our department's mission statement is inventing a healthier future for families and communities in San Antonio, South Texas, and beyond through excellence in patient-centered care, research, and education. Thank you in advance for muting your microphone once the presentation begins, being attentive to the presenter, engaged in the session, keeping your cameras on when appropriate, registering for CME credit for each session, and for completing and submitting a session evaluation form at the end. Today is January 24th, 2024. The activity code for today is 10093233. CME credit you can claim credit via the text system. If you have not registered, text your email address to the number on the screen, 844-502-1338, and then text attend 10093233. Here's some more information about that new CME system. Again, today's activity code is 10093233. Here's some information about how to access your CME transcripts from the Long School of Medicine CME office, should you need them. An American Academy of Family Physician members can claim claim credit for this activity using the link on the screen at the AAFP.org's claim credit function. This live activity, South Texas Regional Family Medicine Grand Rounds, has been reviewed and is acceptable for up to 1 prescribed credit by the AAFP. Physicians should claim only the credit commensurate with the extent of their participation in the activity. Our Family and Community Medicine Grand Rounds address the following nationally established physician core competencies: the Institute of Medicine core competencies, the ABMS ACGME competencies, and the AAMC competencies. Our speaker today, Kathleen Stevens, RN, EDD, FAAN, has no financial relationships with ineligible companies to disclose. All right, and Dr. Montanez will now introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are happy to welcome Dr. Stevens to speak to us today. She is a distinguished endowed professor with UT Health San Antonio. Her work has pioneered the field of evidence-based practice through the STAR model theory, the first national consensus on evidence-based practice competencies, and measurements of evidence-based practice readiness. She leads the national evidence-based practice quality efforts in the new field of implementation science. Her research has been funded by multiple national agencies and foundations, including the NIH, and she has led multiple national and international professional associations through elected positions. She is the associate editor of the Journal for Clinical and Translational Science, and she has been honored multiple times and also inducted into the International Nurse Researcher Hall of Fame. We are very happy to have her here today. Please welcome Dr. Stevens.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, and I have to say that one of the things about it is when you've had as long a career history as I have, you can add a lot of things to the list. So thank you for picking those, and those are the ones that I'm proudest of, I guess, in terms of moving not only nursing but healthcare forward on the basis of evidence-based practice. And of course, we're going to have evidence-based practice. What we're going to have to do is generate the research. And I just am going to phrase this as I know that there are many focuses on clinical practice and delivering care directly. And I'm hoping that that's all based on research. I came in ringing this bell a long time ago. How long ago was that? Well, it was before Carlos Jaén joined as your chair. And it was when the Texas tobacco funds were available. So I'm really happy that the Health Science Center still has Dr. Jaén at the forefront. Since 2002, Dr. Bob Frere and I worked to advance the idea of evidence-based quality improvement, we sponsored 15 years of national conferences. So Bob is pulled back a little bit, but is such a part of family and community medicine, and one of the most excellent scientific minds in such a gentle way that I've ever encountered. And I've actually published together and conducted multi-site studies together. And then Walter Kalmbach with his practice-based research network. So practice-based research networks, of course, reach out to clinicians and in their clinical practices and want to engage in such a way that we're doing the right kind of research to inform best practices in the clinical areas, but also to engage to get active participation from clinicians as authentic partners, not the same as a scientist, but certainly a hugely important part. So in thinking about where we want to go, couched within this background, scientific teams, meaning not only the statistician and the designer and the principal investigator, but larger teams are increasingly important as investigators from multiple disciplines and backgrounds work together, because our problems are more complex. And we're looking at system problems as well as individual health problems. So we're looking at three things in this particular discussion today. And it's the foundation of investigative team skills, how to work together in investigative teams. So the advantages of high-performing multidisciplinary investigative teams will be touched on. We'll examine this program called TeamMAPPS to advance processes and performance in science, called TeamMAPPS. It's kin to TeamSTEPS, which is about care coordination. Anybody does TeamSTEPS, S-bar, I pass a baton. I see some heads nodding. It's kin to that same evidence based on teaming. And to identify how that TeamMAPPS online program can be accessed and integrated. So think of Shark Tank. I'm here with a pitch. Number 3 in particular. So I thought, where do we come together in our shared interest? Because that's the first thing in teaming. And I think when we have a conversation like this, the foundation is, where are our interests? And we are all interested in health science, either developing it, advancing it, or using it in our clinical care. Best practices. My patients are participants in studies. Is this true for anyone? So, I mean, this very high thing to do in our academic center. I support clinical research projects in some way, advising on them, accepting them, identifying potential participants. I'm part of a research team. Anybody part of a research team in a big way, small way, PI, project staff? My job description includes research. Does anybody's job description, your promotion and tenure, rely on something to do with reading the latest research or using it in practice? So we have shared beliefs that science advances population health. And that's why we're here in the University of Texas Health Science Center, right? So with that, I'm going to say, well, why team research? Because we all know it as principal investigators, you know, the big one, like Dr. Haeen, principal investigator at real national levels. Research about research suggests that multidisciplinary teams make a greater impact than individual scientists. Now, who are we going to share that with? Folks, our PIs might be interested to know that that paradigm has shifted a bit, and it takes a team to have that greater impact because of the complexity of that system. So and of the questions that we're trying to answer with research. So it's really like, well, but I'm a team. We're sitting here. I work in a team. I go downstairs. There's the front clerk. There's the prep room. There's even the very important facilities and housekeeping folks. We're all a team. Don't I already have team skills? I thought this cat had a hole in it. Can you see it? So it's like thinking about, am I perceiving this correctly? Do I really have team skills across the enterprise of conducting research? And what do those roles look like? And how are those teams coordinated? So trial and error in many groups in our lives. We're part of a family. We're part of, the Health Science Center. We're part of a student group or a faculty group. And so we do have heuristic skills that have been built up through the teams that we have been born into and remain members of. But unfortunately, this kind of team collaboration doesn't organically yield effective teamwork. I'm sure you can name one or two places that things went awry. So there's a movement afoot because of the recognition of the value of team research or team science or investigative teams. All of those I use interchangeably to say, maybe there are some team science competencies. And here's just a little clue about things that you might assess yourself on. We're not going to do this today, but I want to ask you about some specifics and have you sort of go, oh yes, I recognize that. Have you ever heard about the power differential in groups? And have you ever heard my way or the highway? Yes. So that's a power differential that now how strong a group do you think that position yields? And so these 5 major categories of things would help you identify how well you might do to bring out each person's idea. Think about a group, and it involves maybe a citizen, somebody from the community, maybe a community health worker sitting at the table who doesn't have statistical skills, but has very valuable ideas about how to reach and recruit people in the community. How do you politely disagree with someone? You take your shoe off and bang the table? No, right? There are ways to politely disagree. How do I express my ideas as the junior in the group and have them valued? So these are some team skills that came to mind in terms of, yes, I've probably been in each one of these. How do you help people with differing perspectives come to a single view around the mission you're trying to accomplish in that particular group? That's called a shared mental model, and staying on mission in that group. As a follower, how do you stay on track and put your particular priority list and agenda aside and really marry into the one that you're giving to the group that you're acting in? How do I show I value anyone that's bringing forth an idea? So I ran across this one. I jotted down real quickly about a month ago. It says, I may not be right, but I'm never wrong. Do you feel that way sometimes? Or do you hear somebody say that? You know, these are group dynamics. And I think the paradigm where I grew up in was at MD Anderson, and that's a heavy, heavy research institution for a number of years, was that it was expected that the principal investigator of a research project would be totally accountable. And so that brings with it a number of things that either if you follow that track and deny the group input, then you're missing out on the richness. So what happened is that the Institute of Medicine, National Research Council of the National Academies, they've evolved their titles, shared with us this committee report recommendations on enhancing the effectiveness, not just of teaming in care for coordination, but in science, in research. So you can read part of this, the dramatic increase in the scale and complexity of scientific research is totally evident. And then team science leverages the opportunity to bring multiple perspectives. And as I mentioned, there is evidence that these diverse groups do generate better and more innovative solutions. They also talked about how team-based approach works and how can universities and research institutions support teams. So here we are at home because we're at a research and healthcare and university system. The report goes on to synthesize the available research on developing science teams. It examines institutional and organizational structures. What would that look like? It would be like, well, when I get ready to go up on promotion and tenure, typically it's counted how many times I've been principal investigator. But in team science, the co-principal investigator. So the promotion and tenure committee wants to recognize that, as well as collaborators, as being very instrumental in producing good science. Where is research needed for developing team strategies? And they make recommendations on how university research administrators and team science leaders and faculty and graduate and postdoctoral students can really get into the team science. So what is team science? This is from the National Institutes of Health. And of course, they're our gold standard for really achieving a high level recognition as a university with excellent research. It's a collaborative effort to address a scientific challenge that leverages the strengths and expertise of professionals, oftentimes trained in different fields: clinicians, community leaders, statisticians, experts from the drug development company. All those people come together. So we think about all those roles and think about, do we know a person that has been a single PI on a project? Does anybody know, like maybe Dr. Hain or PI with others in a similar field? In other words, we get together and we think it's interprofessional, but it's all from family and community medicine. Just different. There may be pediatric focused, obstetric focused, etc. Or maybe you've seen a clinician on the team, or maybe the research staff. Oh my gosh, how important are those to make the projects come to life? And team members from widely different fields. Team members including citizen scientists and teams with senior and junior and scientists in training, because we do have, you know, postdoc, pre-doc, and researchers in training. You think of others that you've seen in the field of research, or that you bumped into, or that you're a part of. So just thinking about health services and translational science. And we do have a clinical and translational science award that we've had since 2008 here in, and it's one of the longest standing ones in the nation, funded by NIH. Translational science is by nature complex because it's not just at the bench or the bedside or testing it in the clinical trials, but it's moving it on and changing practice with adoption strategies that we know that work. That's translational and implementation science. So it is complex and multidisciplinary. We need people from marketing and business. And what is the return on investment of implementing a new immunization clinic, for example? Can you cost it out and then demonstrate the impact it has on the population health? So there's a growing expectation for application of team science. With it comes like, oh my gosh, this is a new field. I'm a professional now, but I don't have this contemporary set of skills. So to really pound a little bit more in terms of, we have to address this because the National Institutes of Health expect this on your research teams. They expect teams to be trained in teaming. So when the bio sketches go in, if you can label a program that you've been through to be able to effectively lead an interprofessional team, it makes your investigative team stronger. This all started out in Chicago, and Michelle Bennett was there at the very beginning, and then went on into NCI, that's also NIH, and produced this field guide. It's collaboration team science and sort of a how-to book. We're not going to dive into that just yet, but just saying that here's the context where we need to begin to address scientific teams. And then came along 3 or 4 years ago where working together apart became very interesting. We do have some people on Zoom, and thank you for joining. We're working together apart, but so many facets of our work have become internet and virtual bound, even asynchronous. So the past 3 years really have heralded in new and expanded venues for collaboration. And it really, really makes understandings of teaming, and team management more acute, because you lose a whole lot when you go virtual. When you have online courses, there's extra effort has to be put forth for interaction, just like in team meetings. So the Health Science Center said, wow, maybe the Office of Vice President for Research and the Institute for Integration of Medicine and Science, that's our CTSA's name, as well as this accreditation from SACO, SACS OC, I can never say it, I'll show you in the next slide, has a quality enhancement plan, and it meshes with your department's core research areas. You have a lot of research areas that are not a single person or in a single lab, but really are out in the community, really are here in this clinic, really are motivating people to manage hypertension, to manage diabetes, etc. So it's very complicated, this list that you have as core research areas. So in thinking about that, the SACS-COC, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, is an accrediting body, just like Kelsey talked about the continuing education and how those accrediting bodies are leaning into looking at those competencies. Established our accreditation by promising a quality enhancement plan that is entitled Linking Interprofessional Networks for Collaboration. So there are a number of interprofessional activities, some focused at undergraduate, some focused at graduate. This particular one that I'm going to talk about shortly is focused at clinicians, faculty scientists, community participants. And so it's anchored in our CTSA, IMS, and we borrowed or collaborating with UT Medical Branch in Galveston to use their program called TeamMAPPS, Team Methods to Advance Processes and Performance in Science, meaning research teams. So here's the sharks, okay? So you can go to this webpage and find that each link initiative is set up across all the schools because it is interprofessional. This one happens to be engaging. There's my pal, Walter Krombach again. And I know that you also know Dr. Inez Cruz, and of course, Dr. Ravi, who's the reason that we have this time together today. So we're all in. We came together and said, you know, we'll be part of the Link Research Initiative. And this website that's up at the top of the page links you to this particular landing page. And it talks about what we're trying to do with the TeamMAPPS. TeamMAPPS is being used as the signature program in an educational intervention to produce team building competencies that provides scientists and their partners with the skills to lead and participate in high impact research teams. So that's what we're about. And down at the bottom, if you click on those particular tabs on the active website, you'll find the charges that we promised to do as a team. We did join with UTMB in Galveston, and their CTSA, and there's 4 CTSAs in Texas, and their CTSAs, the one that actually developed TeamMAPPS, and we're collaborating with them at that kind of professional development level to study how to roll out TeamMAPPS. So Stephen Moldrum is the lead down there, along with Kevin Wooten, who's from the business school at University of Houston. So business has been interested in teaming a long time, but probably longer than healthcare industry has. So you'll see that TeamMAPPS is defined as the title, Team Methods to Advance Processes and Performance in Science. I can't remember it, so I have it typed up and glued on the top of my computer screen. TeamMAPPS, it is evidence-based. A lot of it comes from the world of human engineering in terms of how to set up high-performing teams, no matter what the outcome, a sales team, a healthcare provider team, a research team. And so it's been very interesting to see that evidence base moved across a number of functions. It's been deployed, TeamMAPPS has been deployed online as a 5-module series. So the framework, you go, okay, what is it about? Well, it's about awareness and exchange, making sure that I'm aware of the participants and exchanging ideas and having a safe place to do that, in terms of I won't be seen as diminished or not valued. Every contribution counts. And then managing the obvious different directions that team members are going to want to go. I fall short of calling it conflict, but when you have differences of, well, let's go this way, well, I thought we'd go this way, and bringing those together, having that skill set. So, it's like working in your family, right, to create that harmony. So here's another way of looking at the 3 major buckets for these competencies. These are taken from a Bisbee article that's 2021. It's at the end of this presentation. So the idea of there's additional resources for you. The scope of TeamMAPPS is it is skills development or development evaluation. It's either for new teams or advanced teams or existing teams or forming teams. It's a training model, and it can be a diagnostic intervention to see, well, where's the team? Where could the team really buff up its harmony and its productivity? It is delivered completely asynchronous, online, individual, or you can do it in groups, or you can do it face-to-face intervention. So it's online. It's an online training, which makes it accessible to a lot of people. And that group that I showed you, the Magnificent 7 of the folks that are rolling this out across the Health Science Center and collaborating with Galveston, are there to help us with the rollout of this. But just to give you a taste, this is the landing page for TeamMAPPS. It's housed at the School of Nursing in Galveston, interestingly enough. And if you decide to go in, you can obviously sign up. There's no charge for it. You would be presented with 5 modules: the introduction, promoting psychological safety, facilitating awareness and exchange, self-correction and adaptation. It's like, I may not always be right, but I'm never wrong. I need to adapt that one, right? And then a summation. It's very brilliantly done. And it's an enjoyable training format. Kevin Wooten, the developer, is a behavioral skills trainer from the field of business, and made sure that these things were really, really embedded. I'm a little bit hesitant to risk going to the website, but Kelsey's going to try to help.
You should be able to.
That's it. Okay.
Gonna have to get back.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. Well, this is like the website, but I would like to scroll up on it. Here it is. Okay. And you can see that I can sign in, sign up. There's an overview. You can get a taste of each one of the modules. And so just to demonstrate, it really is online.
Do you need to go back to your program?
Yes, I think I got it.
In the middle.
Okay. So I had spare tabs here just in case. It did go live September 2023. Dr. Bob Clark, the head of our CTSA, was very much in support, along with Jennifer Potter, of adopting TeamMAPPS when Kevin Wooten and his team came in 2019, in September of 2019, and then the world shut down, right? So it was regenerated and piloted this past March with about 27 trainers. So again, we're part of the Galveston study that wants to study, how do we get this out there? How do I get you to engage and help roll out the TeamMAPPS? This is very important to our CTSA and to other CTSAs. It's written into the NIH NCATS requirement that if you develop something locally in your CTSA, it needs to be scaled up regionally and nationally. So this is some of the backdrop that Dr. Moldrum is doing in terms of studying the study rollout. But back to where we need to go. You were invited to participate in TeamMAPPS, no matter where you were in that list of potential roles in research. If you want to use best practices in caring for patients, you are an end user of research. And so all of a sudden it becomes really important that we, as faculty and faculty scientists and postdoctoral trainees and graduate students and residents and community partners engaged in our research and clinical stakeholders address how to strengthen the impact of our research that's conducted in teams. As I mentioned, it's an evidence-based curriculum and an education intervention. This is the landing page. It's a screenshot that again, you sign up and you create. It's like any page. The program itself, I'm sorry, it's like any program you sign up to, and you provide a user ID and a password, and then it's yours, and it tracks you as you move through the various modules. So it's a train the trainer program. What does that mean? Well, it's sort of like TeamSTEPS. It's modeled after TeamSTEPS, where master trainers are trained, given all the materials, and then told you can now do local training and help people get certificates. The 2-day master training occurred here. Dr. Robbie was in it. Chris Fry was in it. I was in it. And Tim Reistetter from Health Professions had already been trained because he came from Galveston. So we do have master trainers on board ready to roll this out and to help. The link target learners, that the interprofessional initiative, are still that group. It's a little bit different. Like I said, it's faculty, it's postdoc trainees, it's residents, community partners engaged in research. If you complete 5 online modules, you're awarded a certificate. Now, Kelsey, there's no CEUs attached to that yet. That's one of our goals in trying to get this done. So I'll be back in touch because you seem like an expert. You can do a single module, or you can do all 5 and get a certificate. And hopefully we can sweeten that pot. And we've already bumped through what those modules were. So the summary about teaming in research is that health services research and translational science are by nature complex and multidisciplinary. Interprofessional teams produce superior scientific outputs. Growing expectations for application of team science and health research are evident in NIH for successful grant winning. And there's a need for this expanded team knowledge, skills, and views among academic scientists and all of our partners to perform. So part of the admission is that, wow, I'm used to the PI paradigm. How do I get into this team science frame of mind? So thinking about TeamMAPP adopters, it's you. Those are going to be, hopefully you can find your place in this list and would say, what can team research skills do for me? Can build your confidence in research groups. You can stand up tall and as a clinician say, I see this pattern and this research project needs to address how to recruit patients through this pattern as participants. You can have more fun with research on research teams. It's really fun to be innovative and think about the next question to answer. You produce better research results in terms of more impactful results. This occurs because the whole scheme is looked at. You've begun the research project with the end user in mind, so it fits better into clinical practice. More President Henrich would like that. We'd all like that. It advances what we know about taking care of patients. What are some other ways that these skills can help you? Anybody? Anything come to mind? Okay. So in pure Shark Tank approach, I'm asking you for 5 hours of your time in exchange for a TeamMAPPS certificate. So think about trying this on. This is an action-oriented recruitment kind of pitch. And think about, is TeamMAPPS for you? Would you like to sign on and do one module for a little bit more introduction to try it out? Do you have an hour? Do you have 5 hours to get a certificate? So sharks, who's going to make an offer for TeamMAPPS? Thinking about, does this fit? Do I need it? Can I push it into my schedule somewhere? All those are realities. I wanted to ask you about the options and preferences you might have, because that group that I showed you with Inez Cruz and Walter Kalmbach in it, we want to know the answers to what's going to work for you, because hopefully we're demonstrating the value of TeamMAPPS. And then the exchange would be, do you want a 1.5 day consecutive group work? 4 days for 4 weeks spread across a month, maybe? Individual work with a check-in at the end. It is asynchronous, but we can have little study groups sort of to push people along. So what other ideas do you have? Because I'm here to gain the ideas from you. What would fit? What would convince you to get online and spend an hour in the introductory module? If we would convene like a Zoom call and everybody get on at once and sort of help each other through and have that connection, would be remote, asynchronous, making it easy. I would love to see launched a group of 12 people that would go sort of lockstep through 4 weeks to cover the 5 modules and get the certificate at the end, because then you become like the go-to people for helping to say, this is valuable, this is my experience. Any ideas with that? Is March, April, May, June worse or better? I bet Kelsey can tell me about your schedules. Yeah, right. So if you decide to go, what would you offer in trade? Well, I'm going to leave this sort of open in terms of where we're going. You'll hear this presented again at the Trauma Surgery Network in February. And I think this is recorded as well. If you want to go back, like it was such a new idea, let me go back and see this. But be assured that online TeamMAPPS is online, and I need to know who is in. Is anybody just slightly interested? Raise your hands. This is not the Baptist church, but raise your hands. I'm not going to ask you to come down to the front. So yeah, it sounds interesting to kind of think about, wow, does team science really produce higher impact research results? Any questions at this point? The next slide, and then I'll go back to this one, are two really, really key readings. The Bisbee article with Kevin Wooten and Eduardo Salas is up there now. That group is now out of University of Wisconsin in Madison. And then the very pragmatic article, the Team Science, a practical approach to starting a collaborative project. It doesn't even have to be research. It could be a quality improvement project that you come together around. So what would it take, Sharks, to get you in on this TeamMAPPS training that is across the Health Science Center, part of our research enterprise now?
Dr. Stevens, not sure if you can hear me. This is Tarni Ravi on Zoom.
Thank you for joining us. Yes.
Yes.
So we've been working on these ideas for a while. I'd like for you to add to the concepts and maybe who's in it for what.
Right. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I came in a little bit later, but I heard most of the presentation. So thank you for that. It was a good introduction to team science and TeamMAPPS. As you mentioned in our residency, we definitely do a lot of interdisciplinary projects, QI projects within the clinic and community projects that involve, residents, students from different health professions. So we're pretty used to working in teams, but as far as my background, I haven't had official training in how to work well in a team setting and how to, create high performance teams. So this was really helpful to hear, and just my thoughts on the TeamMAPPS modules. I have done the introductory module. It was really helpful. It was, went through some practical tips and, along with an example that everybody, it's not based on like lab research or anything, just everyday teams that occur. And it was pretty, it was, even though I was doing it by myself, I felt like there was a lot of feedback and a lot of, well, not feedback, just, what do I call it? Like I had to put my own thoughts, and really made me think about how I would react in a certain situation in the team setting. So it was really helpful. And as far as how to implement this, or how best to introduce TeamMAPPS to our residency, I think what would be practical is maybe not all the residents and faculty get trained on it. That would be great, but practically that might not be possible. But some key folks, from a team of residents and a team of faculty, we could probably get together, and if we can do it together, it would probably be more fun, I would think, rather than doing it on our own. So we usually have Wednesday afternoons set aside for residency didactics. It's based on the schedule. We can look into that.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi, and thank you for making this possible here and for being on the initiative team. Because we're noodling over this right now. We can't assign students that are enrolled in a course to attend a particular class. So it really is a very different Shark Tank kind of pitch that we're making. Other comments? Yes.
What time, what day of the week, and then what month. May I propose like Monday morning, because everyone's versus Friday afternoon, or Wednesday afternoon, because everyone's mindset is ready to work. Everyone hates Monday, but we're all gonna work on Monday. So having it in the morning or evening, it's like a nice will take, start the day, and then after whatever was spoken at the meeting, then you can plan throughout the week of what you can afford the time that research. First is having it on a Friday afternoon for the holiday. Got it. Then whatever was taught, spoken about in that meeting. In terms of the month, with our residency, I think the best month is May. Because June is graduation month and there's some others with there. April is sports month and March is this. And May comes.
What happens to, what happens to summer? What happens to June, July, August? August is kind of not good. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm a nurse. I know what June is in healthcare with the new folks. Okay, these are great suggestions, and I want to drill.
TeamMAPPS.
Yeah.
Monday meetings in May.
Okay,
Catch.
it is. Got it. Slogan. We have a slogan now. You're a marketeer. So I particularly like the idea of sort of warming up in the morning and having a chance to practice those skills within your work environment rather than Friday afternoon and trying to practice them on your dog at home, right? So I don't know. So that's a great idea. So we'll work with that. And I have ideas that different groups will really end up in different places, but for this group, I think that that's a big possibility. Another comment? Comments from Zoom. Thank you for being there. Anything in the chat? You know, you saw the rollout, and so we're gaining experience in what works best, and this combination of doing it in the morning and doing it through May is one idea. We did the master training in a group, and it was a 2-day training online. What works best, I think. The skills are about interaction dynamics. And so it seems like you'd have to be the judge. Does the module evoke enough interaction? You don't get a lot of feedback. You get graded. You have to have the right answers for things. My personal thought, and a pediatric background, is that role model and interaction is good. So I think at the end of the day, we're still trying to figure out, you know, what virtual low interaction online learning is, what the impact is of it. So what would be your thought on that?
I think I might get it. More even referencing when you enter the module, it's like you're going slide by slide and learning information versus like, is it, you know, are you participating in something that's on the slide that you could do add. It was just like reading information that it might be. I don't know if that's that is as collaborative as it would be. It's like, come on, you should be doing these activities when you have a chance to do them.
I think the modules would lend themselves with a group if everybody would get on like a Teams or a Zoom and have their laptops open and say 10 minutes to read this, and then come back and say, what did you think about this? And what's the interest? And then go and do that next segment in the module. So it's sort of like working together apart, the concept of having other people online at the same time with you, I think would be very effective. Okay, well, I bet y'all will all go home and find the next old episode of Shark Tank and see what the pitch is. And I so appreciate the opportunity and the great support from Kelsey trying to, you know, wrestle these presentations out at startup of the semester when you're teaching and you have several courses online and committees to launch is challenging. So Kelsey, thank you for your very adept facilitation as well as your whole Your whole team. Thank y'all so much.
Oh, thank you so much.